Welcome back to Company Growth Partner. My name is Jayson. I am a branding expert, digital marketer living in Los Angeles, California.
I'm Matt Borka, signing in from Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm a revenue operations specialist and media buyer. And today we are going to talk about the dark and dirty secrets of ad agencies. I think it's a topic that has been a long time coming. And some of you guys might have worked with ad agencies before, but I think it's really important to kind of talk about like what's happening because on the client side, some of the changes that we have been experiencing maybe since like 2021, they're really coming to the surface now.
I mean, in the last 10 years, there's been a really big blow up of agencies, marketing agencies, and opportunities
100%.
for businesses to try to pay somebody else to do their marketing for them. And we have found that a lot of clients that work with us have worked with ad agencies or marketing agencies in the past, and that they maybe experienced some things that could be avoided if different business practices were to be entertained, or if you were to do things a little bit of a different way. Matt worked in the ad agency space for how long?
I mean, I worked in digital marketing for 8 years, but I worked in the high volume ad agency space for 3 years. And it was a very eye-opening experience for me because I always wanted to be in that environment. And I decided to leave because some of the things that I saw didn't really meet my expectations in a lot of ways. Sometimes, and this is what we get a lot of times where, prospect or client comes to us and they worked with an ad agency before, or they try to engage with someone similar to a service provider like that, right? Maybe it was a smaller agency or whatever. And sometimes we hear horror stories. The craziest one I know is, agency, I'm not going to mention the agency's name. They spend $11,000 in ads and the client saw $1,000 altogether in return. It's like, what the fuck, right?
$11,000 and the only return was 1K.
Or yeah, I'm gonna put you on a 25K credit. Okay, what am I gonna get for that? And then basically what happened was person put together a really shitty website, like a site that was literally designed for a company in the early 2000s, and even worse than that from a functionality perspective. And the person bailed with the 25K. These are real stories. Like, these are things I know of. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people who could tell even crazier stories. But that's where we are at. We live in a world where these service providers are kind of full of shit and they're providing subpar service and they charge a lot for it. And then they see a 3-month churn and it's like, what happened? Oh, I don't know. Maybe you don't know what you're doing. Like, every single time I speak with a prospect and they worked with a media buyer before, they already tell me, yeah, I have a bad experience. Like, I'm not making this up. Sometimes I hear, I never had a good experience working with a media buyer. I'm like, wow, okay. So it's like, what are we doing, people? That's part of the reason why I started Company Growth Partner, because I saw how inefficient and slow moving and bureaucratic the agency system is. I just want to make money for clients. If I'm going to be stopped by the agency or the agency model to do so, I don't want to continue using that model. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that's why we're here.
That's exactly right. So I think for this video, it's exciting to consider that with Matt's extensive experience working in the ad agency space, my extensive experience working with companies and brands that have been burned by ad agencies before, and our combined experience talking to people who've been burned by ad agencies, we've got a little bit of knowledge about what we consider to be the dark secrets of ad agencies, of these teams of media buyers and designers that you might be paying $11,000 to get $1,000 back.
Now, this is a real story. Like, that's why it's so fucked up that this actually happened, right? And sometimes what happens, and this is like really crazy, some of these agencies, they get 1 or 2 deals, right? Because they know people, right? So it's a lot, sometimes it's purely just nepotism. Okay. Like, they know someone somewhere and then they get a big gig with like an influencer. right? Or they already have the connections to get things started. And then they have that one influencer who they work with, or maybe a couple, whatever. And everything is everything revolves around that relationship. And obviously the influencer is not going to say shit about them because why would they? So that's how it works. But then when it comes to like the actual reality of, can you do the work? Can you actually deliver results? Do you understand what you're doing? More often than not, some of these agencies are unaware of the business KPIs. So like they look at what's happening in Ads Manager and they say everything's good, yeah, and then they ignore sometimes the accounts entirely. I mean, I know media buyers that only optimize weekly, and I mean, I don't want to shit talk, but it's bullshit that
You optimize daily.
if I don't look at it daily, I look at it like every 3 days, and I only do that every 3 days if I know that there isn't like any immediate urgency or emergency. It's fucking insane to me that like there are some people out there that are cashing in on the retainer and then they're owning the legacy IP of I'm a reputable ad agency, and then they're not doing the fucking work, or they hire someone, people who don't have that much experience. There's no middle management in place to train because that's where they cut budget the most, or they hire someone who doesn't know absolutely fucking nothing about ads. They just hire like a general project manager or someone who has some level of management experience, but definitely no experience in direct response. I've seen it happening. The media buyers are in the trenches doing the work. And a lot of times the issues are, I mean, I worked with media buyers who were like sitting in the wrong seat for years, not knowing that actually, oh, wait, I'm not a data person. I'm actually a copywriter and I should not touch the data at all because I just don't know it as much. Right. So there's like a lot of that as well, where there's a lot of general people sitting in very specialized positions when in reality they should be moved over because like they are marketers and they're good at it, but like they're not in the best seat. And then that's where the overpromising and underdelivering happens the most because, there's all these people sitting in the wrong seats. Senior management is getting paid and they're like very comfortable. They're very comfortable with their good pay. And then they constantly push downward like all their problems because obviously they want to stay in, they want to have their job and their good money. So they're terrorizing middle management, and then middle management is like, I mean, we can go on and on and on and on and on. But I mean, that's the reality of a busy ad agency, and it's a model that is not really sustainable anymore.
Marketing needs to be custom. It needs to be something that's built for your business and for your target market. A lot of ad agencies, a lot of marketing agencies. This is something I didn't know until you and I started working together at length. And you explained to me that a lot of these larger ad agencies, they're getting paid, their media buyers and stuff, they're getting paid based on ad spend, not necessarily based on results. And so you're not actually, they don't care about the KPIs. And it makes sense that they would push special systems that are actually cookie cutter.
They care about the KPIs, but only the KPIs that are given to them in Ads Manager, right? And there's conflict of interest. There's conflict of interest because they're looking at, okay, how can we increase ad spend? Because that's how I'm going to make more money. But in reality, that can actually be counterintuitive, and that doesn't necessarily make sense for the business. So the advice is given that, yeah, you need to increase ad spend, bro. And then you assume that you work with an expert, but in reality, you're just speaking with the spokesperson of the agency saying, okay, you need to increase ad spend. Every single time you ask a question, the answer is, well, you got to spend more. And that doesn't make sense because, obviously, like if you're not looking at the business KPIs, client is saying, we're not converting the leads. Okay, cool. So why is that? Is it the funnel? Do you have a broken sales process? You're not closing? What's happening? And more often than not, a media buyer, except for the ones who are out there on their own, they don't have a good understanding of all these overall numbers because they're way too focused on what's happening in Ads Manager. And the biggest problems are almost always post-click, meaning prior to the click, like those are easier problems to solve compared to what's happening in the funnel and what's happening on your landing page, what's happening during the sales process. Those are significantly harder problems to solve. And that's why ad agencies are not really comfortable with going there. They're not even interested in learning it. Why? Because that would mean more work for them.
Right.
So they want to charge 20K, they want to charge 30K without actually having the interest of growing with the business. They would rather just charge as much because I have the reputation instead of actually going in and fixing the problem. And I feel like that's like the biggest issue nowadays, because they're not focused on value creation. They're focused on getting paid based on ad spend. And a lot of these agencies are actually falling apart because the model is not sustainable anymore.
It's not. And I mean, if you're looking to grow your business, obviously you have to be concerned with more than just front-end metrics, just basic numbers about ad spend and click-through rate. You have to be so much more concerned about the whole picture. And I think anybody who's helping you in your business should also be concerned about the whole picture. And ad agencies, marketing agencies, they're not going to be. They'll say they are, they might promise they are, but they just don't have the capacity.
And the vacuum that happens, and this is where things get like really fucked up, right? Because the people who actually know what they're doing, they're leaving because they're not getting paid enough. And that's why there's a lot of solopreneur media buyers and copywriters out there, because they don't want to work with an ad agency because they don't want to burn out. They don't want to have a mental breakdown. So they go out on their own and do that instead of be in an agency environment. Quite frankly, a lot of times it can be extremely toxic. I mean, for example, I'm aware of an agency that pays their media buyers like $500 per account. That's fucking insane. And the idea is, yeah, you're going to get paid more if you do more. So they're managing, these media buyers sometimes are managing like, more than like 10, 15, 20 accounts, like depending on like, what's your breaking point? And it's like, do you really want to work with a media buyer who's managing 10 different businesses or ad accounts, and they're not being trained? The person doesn't have time for training. They're hiring overseas, which is not a problem, but then there could be cultural nuances that the person needs to go through training, and especially in terms of communication and like that sort of thing. And it's like, it's not there. So it's like, it's kind of falls apart, right? And I mean, that's where we're at. So, whenever you hear like, oh yeah, I have a big agency, and the person loves using the word like, I have an agency, like there is something going on the back end. There's something going on, because the model is broken. And I see a lot of people actually pivoting into software and other ways of actually doing the service, but they don't even want to position themselves as an agency, because they understand sometimes like that can be like bad reputation, but no one really talks about it because it's like it's frowned upon. But we want to call out the bullshit, because if you're working with an ad agency and you're paying 20, 30K and you're not getting results, well, what's the fucking point? Right? Like there's no point. So you better start looking for other alternatives, because you're burning your budget.
Yeah, I mean, we have it written down for this conversation. I mean, if you're working with an ad agency, not only are you likely getting, overpromised and underperformed results out of that ad agency, but you also might be adding chaos to your team.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen this happening firsthand, where the ad buying team has their interest in whatever they need to push. And then the client is kind of like, okay, cool. So, we don't want to do that because it doesn't make sense. So the media buying team suggests one thing that could go completely against how the business operates or what's actually needed for the business. It's really insane, where like the incentive is really to, carry out the service, whatever work you can, and then churn in 3 months. Like that's the reality with smaller agencies, where churn is so high, or the conversation is extremely one-sided, and in reality the business would need operations support, and the agency cannot give it, but they still have the leverage because they know how to control media, so they feel they can get away with charging more for only doing media buying when in reality the current landscape requires more. You need to understand copywriting and funnel building and email marketing and marketing automation and CRM. If you don't know those things, you cannot help the business. So, you can play the game for a couple of maybe months, maybe a year, but things are going to fall off because the business owner is going to think, well, you don't have the resources and we've grown, you haven't, right? So now we need more resources and you cannot give it to us. So it's very difficult to justify paying you only for managing ads or putting together that like one email sequence and whatever when you're not able to provide continual support when I actually need it.
Yeah, ad agencies and the model that they operate under, it just isn't built for what online businesses need now. They need dedicated
No,
support,
it's
paying attention to every
exactly.
aspect of the business.
Yeah, back in the day, we were seeing that, oh, digital ad agencies, it's the new thing. But the model has reached its maturity
Hmm.
and it has reached that point where you're actually better off looking for alternative options because if you go to a big ad agency, I mean, and this is where the whole thing breaks down. You are a person who has self worth and you have a reputable business and you are looking to amplify your sales and marketing. So the logical thing is you're going to go to an ad agency because that's where the big boys are, right? And the big girls. Okay, cool. You go there, you pay a lot, and then crickets.
Yeah.
Oh, but wait, I was told that I need to work with an agency because like that's where the smart people are. That's not true anymore because the smart people have already left because they were treated unfairly and they were not paid. That's where the whole logic breaks down. And if you have a business and you have an online business, I'm not saying you should stop working with agencies. I'm not saying that every agency is bad, but the model is broken. And the agencies that are not willing to change the model are going to get fucked, completely fucked in the long run. And if you want to waste a lot of money, please go ahead and start working with agencies or continue working with agencies. But if you're actually looking to make an impact and and you're looking to scale your business, you got to be looking for those alternative service providers who actually know their shit because they are out there. They might be harder to find, but you are going to get the benefit in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is such a great calling card for any business owner who is finding any frustration with the ad agency or marketing agency they're using. We're just saying there are some things to consider here, and you might want to find specialists who aren't working with an agency, who are instead doing it their own way, because they might actually be able to help every part of your business, which is likely what you need.
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening to us ranting a little bit in this episode. So give us a big thumbs up. Share this with a person who is working with, or business owner who's working with an ad agency because you guys need to fucking hear this. Like the message has to go out. We need to spread the word and let people know like why some alternative methods are needed. And like this video, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, like this video, subscribe to us, and share this video with a business owner today. We want to help as many as we can.